All right, let's talk about one of the most powerful tools for tracking your fitness. And you know what the best part is? You already have it. We're talking about your heart rate, and by the end of this, you're going to know exactly how to use it.
Have you ever been there? You're on the treadmill or maybe out for a run and you start wondering, am I pushing myself too hard or not hard enough? Is this actually making a difference? It's a super common question, and lucky for us, your body has a really direct answer.
I want you to think of your pulse as a real-time dashboard for your body's performance. Seriously, learning to read it is just like learning to read the speedometer in your car. It tells you how fast you're going, it helps you stay in a safe and efficient zone, and it shows you how you're improving over time.
So here's the game plan. We're going to cover 4 simple steps. We'll start by finding your fitness baseline. Then we'll learn the classic 2-finger pulse check. After that, we'll figure out your ideal workout zone, and we'll wrap up by looking at what I like to call your post-workout report card. Let's dive in.
Okay, so first things first. Every journey has to have a starting point, right? Well, for your fitness, that starting point is your resting heart rate. This is the foundation that we build everything else on.
So what exactly is it? Your resting heart rate, or RHR, is simply how many times your heart beats in 1 minute when you are completely, totally relaxed. Now the key here is when you measure it. For the most accurate number, you've got to check it right when you wake up in the morning. I mean, before you even sit up in bed. So what does a good number even look like? Well, generally, a lower RHR is a sign of a more efficient heart and better cardiovascular fitness. And it totally makes sense, right? As you get fitter, your heart doesn't have to work as hard to pump blood around, so your resting rate will naturally start to drop. And speaking of getting that number down, here are 3 really practical ways to help. Regular cardio, think running or cycling, strengthens your heart muscle. Staying hydrated helps your blood flow more easily. And, getting enough sleep, that gives your whole body, including your heart, time to recover.
Okay, so we've talked about what to measure. Now let's get down to business and learn exactly how to measure it. And trust me, it is so much easier than you think.
You actually have pulse points all over your body, but honestly, there are 2 that are way easier to find. First, you've got the carotid artery. That's on the side of your neck. And then you have the radial artery, which is on the inside of your wrist, right on the thumb side. Once you find one of those, the rest is a piece of cake.
Now for the technique itself. It's a simple 3-step process. First, just gently place your index and middle fingers, not your thumb, because your thumb actually has its own faint pulse, on one of those spots. Second, grab your phone or a watch and count the beats for exactly 10 seconds. And finally, just take that number and multiply it by 6. And boom, that's your heart rate in beats per minute.
Okay, so now you know your resting rate and you know how to check your pulse anytime. Let's actually apply this to your workout. It's time to find your personal sweet spot for exercise.
And it all starts with this super simple formula. To get a good estimate of your maximum heart rate, just take the number 220 and subtract your age. So for example, if you're 30 years old, your estimated max is 190 beats per minute. That number, your maximum heart rate, or MHR, is pretty important. It basically represents the upper limit of what your heart and your whole cardiovascular system can handle during exercise. Think of it like the red line on the tachometer in your car. Now, you don't want to be redlining your heart for the entire workout. Instead, you want to aim for your target heart rate, or THR. This is the range where you're working hard enough to see results, but not so hard that you risk getting hurt or just burning out. It's the efficiency zone. And we can break this efficiency zone down even more. Think of it in stages. Working at about 50 to 60% of your max, that's perfect for warm-up. That 60 to 70% range is often called the fat-burning zone. And when you push into that 70 to 80% zone, that's where you're really working on improving your cardiovascular endurance.
And that's really the key here. Using these zones helps you exercise smarter, not just harder. It keeps you from jumping into an intensity your body just isn't ready for, which is a really common mistake that can lead to an injury or just feeling completely wiped out. All right, you did the workout, you stayed in your zone, but how do you know if you're actually getting fitter over time? This is where that post-workout report card comes in.
This is what we call your recovery heart rate, or REC-RH, and it's an absolutely fantastic indicator of your fitness level. See, it's not about how high your heart rate gets during the workout, it's about how quickly it comes back down after you stop. The principle here is incredibly simple. A fitter heart recovers faster. As your cardiovascular health gets better, you will literally be able to watch your heart rate drop more quickly in those first few minutes after a workout. It is one of the clearest signs of progress you can possibly track. So what's a good target to aim for?
Well, after you finish your workout, you want to see a pretty big drop in that very first minute. And a great goal to have is to be below 120 beats per minute within about 5 minutes of stopping. If you find you're still way above that, it's not a bad thing. It's just valuable feedback. It might be a sign that the workout was just a little too intense for where you're at right now.
So there you have it. Your resting rate is your baseline. Your target rate is your guide during the workout. And your recovery rate is your progress report. You officially know how to read your body's own dashboard. So the only question left is, where are you going to take it?